Stranger Things final season just dropped. Well, volume 1 of the final season just dropped, so they're releasing it in like waves. And I just finished it. So, let's give you the review. Does the 9 years, the nearly a decade of buildup start to pay off here? The question on everyone's mind. 5 seasons in 10 years. One of the biggest criticisms around this show isn't even really the quality of the show. It's the time in between seasons where it's like 3 years of just fucking purgatory, so then everyone kind of forgets what was happening by the time the new season rolls around. And I always see the intense enthusiasts of this show start attacking people that point that out, like, oh, you homunculi, what, you can't remember every single fucking iota of detail that happened 3 years ago from the last season? Well, why don't you just do what I do and watch the entire series start to finish every 3 years in preparation for the new season? It's simple. And I just think that's a really weak argument. I think it's a very valid, legit criticism to say, like, a lot of time passes that it loses a lot of its hype. So much time has passed that the actors started as children and are now full-fledged adults. Millie Bobby Brown even has a child of her own, and they're still playing these same characters that are supposed to be kids. It is unusual how much time passes between new seasons, and it's preposterous to expect everyone to do fucking homework and rewatch the series every couple of years so that way they can be caught up with what's going on so they don't feel fucking lost with the new season. Anyway, though, I think it's a real complaint. That's the whole point I'm making. But the final season, Volume 1, is here. But real quick, before diving into the spaghetti and meatballs of this review, I want to let you know Starforge Black Friday sale is live right now. It is fucking huge, up to $1,000 off of everything, so you can go there and check it out if you're looking for a better PC. It's got the best PCs in the universe. You can click the link below. So overall, my thoughts on Stranger Things Season 5, Volume 1 are that it's fine. It's a little bit of a letdown. Like, there are more things I didn't like about it than things I liked. There were definitely still things I enjoyed about it, but there were so many things in here that I thought were just kind of underwhelming and even went against some of the, like, really good things Stranger Things had done in previous seasons. I'm going to be getting into spoilers, so this is your full warning here. I'm not going to spoil, like, everything with the first 4 episodes, but there are some things I want to talk about that I just think showcase that they were really trying to just get through it. There are just a lot of moments in here where it feels rushed. And I think there's no better example of that than the military themselves here. They, right now, lack any real clear motive for what they're doing. Like, we don't understand why the military is carrying out plans the way they are, other than just, we're the bad guys. That's as deep as it goes right now, and I'm sure that'll be fleshed out more in the next in the next volume of the final season. But right now, they're just literally flat, one-dimensional antagonist, military bad. And they put that fist up your ass, letting you know you should not be rooting for the military at all. So, like, they start taking kids from Hawkins to bring them to their barracks to try and protect them, but what they're actually doing is using the kids as bait. Which one character's like, well, this is kind of fucked up, and she says, well, get over it, rub some dirt in it, pussy. Dr. K, that's like the new main military bad guy. And then, like, as the kids are there, the military's, like, really mean to them. Like, one of the officers even, like, just slaps one of the kids when he, like, speaks up and says something rude. Military guy's just like, poof. It's like, okay, so military bad, I get it. But what I don't get is, like, the response to everyone else in Hawkins about the military. So, like, they have Hawkins quarantined, basically. Like, they're prisoners. They can't leave Hawkins. And everyone's totally fine with that. They're like, oh yeah, no, just fucking normal day paradise here. So much so that when they start taking their kids, the families don't put up any kind of stink about it. They don't, like, fight back or anything at all. They literally go door to door and just say, we need your child. And the parents are like, okay, we'll take them. Do you want all of them? Like, I have more children. Do you want to take all of them or just this one? And it's like, what the fuck? Really? All the parents are going to be okay with the military just taking their kids to their undisclosed location that is inaccessible to the parents? It's really fucking weird that maybe, like, the entirety of Hawkins has been hit by a stupid beam. Why, though? Like, what are they trying to accomplish? We don't know yet. So they're just, like, literally cartoonishly evil to a certain degree. So when you see Hop just start gunning them down, murdering a bunch of them, or watching Eleven snap one of their necks like she was breaking a Kit Kat bar, even dropping, like, a quirky one-liner saying, sorry for this, and then he falls from the second story, you're just supposed to be like, yeah, that was a bad guy, because military bad. We don't know what they're even trying to do yet, though. So they just feel like such a lame villain. And they're actually fucking incompetent too, by the way. That is like a crazy wombo combo here, because you set up the military as like one of the big forces here that they're battling against, and they have this massive base set up both in the normal world and in the Upside Down. And in both of these cases, they are extensively researching, studying, and mastering their understanding of the Upside Down and the creatures that reside there, like the Demogorgon and stuff. Yet, in the final episode, when they get ambushed by Demogorgon, it's clear the military has no real answers to them. Instead, they continue to just use their guns, which have been established for a decade now, are not effective against the Demogorgon at all, yet all they rely on is their fucking guns. There's only one brave goober in their entire platoon, in this entire military base of hundreds of soldiers, that decides to use the flamethrower. To great effect, mind you. So why, with all they understand about these creatures, with entire science labs dedicated to the full understanding, Dr. K even demonstrating that she knows heat is what is weakening the thing that strangles, which is basically like a fucking hentai tentacle monster that starts strangling Hop, even explaining like, they thrive in the cold, but heat weakens it. Why then is this entire military operation gun-focused instead of having more fire-based weaponry? Or like incendiary grenades or something? Why? Why are they fucking stupid? If they have that knowledge, is it like budget reasons? Like they they weren't allocated enough budget to buy fucking flamethrowers, more of those, or God forbid even a lighter? Jesus, a flare maybe even? Why are they still using guns knowing full well it doesn't work on these creatures? It just doesn't make sense, especially considering that they have done so much research and actually thoroughly understand a lot of it to the point where they literally have L's kryptonite. They have basically the brown note that they're able to blast through their satellite dishes, their, antennas, which is like a frequency that disrupts Elle and she can't like use her powers anymore and it hurts her. They call it her kryptonite. So they studied so much that they now can fight against Elle, one of the most powerful beings in the show, yet they can't just get some more flame weaponry to actually fight the other creatures that they are literally basically cohabitating with. I don't get it. Are the guns just to keep the kids in line so that they can start shooting the kids if they start asking too many questions? Like, I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. It just feels a little lazy, and it's my big complaint about part one is that a lot of it feels rushed. It knows it needs to get to certain places, but to get there, it doesn't really follow what's already been established. It just kind of like speed runs through it, at least in my perspective. And I also don't like that a lot of the character interactions just feel really weird and out of place. And the biggest culprit of that is Dustin and Steve. Now, their banter has been established since the beginning, basically. Like, they have camaraderie where they joke back and forth and they do argue. But in this season, that's dialed up to fucking 5,000. There is not a single scene with these two together where they are not at each other's throats. And to me, that just doesn't compute. Because these are like basically best friends. And Dustin is a shell of his former self. After the death of Eddie, he's traumatized from it, and Hellfire being dragged through the mud, it really hurts him. So his big character arc here is he's trying to basically stick it to the bullies by staying true to himself, like Hellfire's the greatest, Eddie's the GOAT, and for that he keeps getting his ass kicked, and it actually starts to deteriorate his friendships with Steve and the rest of the gang. And then when Steve is like trying to talk to him about it, he's not even really talking to him. He immediately is just combative with Dustin about it. And then Dustin is combative back. So then they're just perpetually arguing back and forth to the point where they have to implement a rule where they don't talk to each other anymore. Because every time they do, they argue. And when they break that rule, they're just arguing again. It's really annoying. These are like supposed to be best friends. Steve clearly knows what's going on. Why wouldn't Steve try and connect with him and try and like help him get through what is clearly a very rough period in his life instead of just immediately pressing his buttons and attacking him? Like, it's not banter like it used to be. They're literally just perpetually arguing for the sake of just having some kind of conflict between them. Same way Steve and Jonathan are constantly arguing now because they're in this competition to impress Nancy. Like, it feels like characters are regressing. And it's just annoying. Especially Jonathan, by the way. His whole role in this series now is basically just being like a stick in the mud. Like, he is just always against the good ideas, and when an idea pans out, he's mad about it panning out. So, like, Steve, for example, he makes a pretty brave decision to drive his car with all of them in it to the upside down as the portal is closing. A decision that Nancy also supports, and Jonathan's like, no, don't do it, don't you fucking do it, don't you fucking do it. And then when they get through there, Jonathan immediately is mad at him like, well, maybe if you didn't drive it in the fucking upside down. And it's like, Jonathan, what are you talking about? And that's basically him for the entire volume 1 here of the final season. He's just always against the good idea. It's just lame. His whole character's been reduced to just, like, being obsessed with trying to, like, propose to Nancy now to beat Steve in this competition without ever really improving his relationship with Nancy and never actually contributing anything of value to the overall plot anymore. It's really disappointing to see. I also really don't like how inconsistent they are with the Demogorgon for the sake of plot armor around the main cast, or even the parents of the main cast. The viral clip that everyone's shooting spitballs at is when Karen, the mother, is trying to protect Holly and the Demogorgon is chasing them, and it one-taps the husband, whose name I already forgot because he plays such a little role. He hits him with like a golf club and the guy just slaps his nipples off. He survives, by the way. Well, now Karen is trying to protect Holly, so she breaks a wine glass and starts stabbing it, and the Demogorgon's like really suffering, like, ow, 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 ow. So Karen is literally fucking shaking this thing down for its lunch money, this thing that is unaffected by like bullets and everything, but this wine glass imbued with the power of a mother's love is just blasting it. But it doesn't kill the Demogorgon or anything. It does end up like slashing her, basically like fucking Wolverine cuts her to ribbons, or at least that's what you're supposed to believe. She survives that as well, by the way. But she did so much damage to it that they were able to follow its blood in the upside down, which was pretty important for Elle and Hop, which, again, how the fuck is a wine glass more effective at making these things bleed and causing damage than all of the countless bullets that they just fucking face tank, just bullet sponge? I don't get that. It's just for the sake of, this is very important characters. Not only can we not kill them, we also need to make sure they have their moments to shine. I get it, but it's really very interesting when you show a scene like that, and you even show like this Home Alone style sequence where the main cast like booby traps a house and puts a tracker on a Demogorgon, hitting it with like fucking planks of wood and nails, trapping it in barbed wire, and then it's like so afraid that it has to run away from all of these like tiny little like doodads that they were blasting it with. And then you have a scene only an episode later where a Demogorgon, the same kind of Demogorgon, is just eating hundreds of bullets and literally splitting trained soldiers in half with no effort. Yet it can't kill a middle-aged man and woman or a bunch of kids, and it's so afraid of all of them that it has to leave, and it took so much damage that it's fucking bleeding out. It's just, like, I understand suspending disbelief. I get that. But it's a little over the top, and it's a little blatant, like the inconsistency with the Demogorgon when it comes to the main cast versus literally everybody else. Which isn't the biggest deal in the world, but it is something that kind of grinded my ass to a grease a little bit at the end of episode 4. Like, I've hit you with a lot of things I didn't like about it, but there are things I do like. I think Will's character is probably the best in the season. Like, this is a character that's basically been benched and sidelined for a while now, where he hasn't really done all that much, and basically his scenes kind of devolve into him just like staring at a camera or feeling his neck over the last few seasons. I struggle to remember anything of real significance he's contributed over the last few seasons, but in this season, he is the most important character, and he gets a huge power boost at the end that I think does actually make sense. It doesn't fully come out of nowhere. They do kind of place the breadcrumbs, but when it happens, you're like, oh wow, he can do that? That's going to be really important. And I think they do a good job of setting it up overall. Murray, I think, is the most enjoyable character in the show. He's basically just coming along delivering gifts and goodies to the crew when they need it in his big old truck, calling himself Santa Claus, delivering, all the valuable materials that they need, and doing it with his quirky, wacky personality. I actually like Murray. He was another standout so far in Volume 1. I also think Vecna is an interesting villain, even though they keep introducing new things instead of, like, answering previous questions, which is kind of annoying, which is Another one of my one of my mini bah humbugs here. Like, I don't like how it's still mainly still just presenting you new information, or even at points like retconning previous information. It's still not giving any answers yet. Even with that in consideration, Vecna is still very interesting, and the mystery of like his grand scheme is enough to keep you invested and hooked on it, especially now they introduce like all those memories, and there's one that he's very terrified of where Max has been hiding in this cave, and when she gets into that cave, you just see him just standing there in his normal human Henry form, just crying. You know, I gotta fucking order a French fries there. Why? Like, there is a lot of interesting mysteries it proposes, though it has done a really poor job at providing any answers from things in the previous seasons so far. I'm guessing they're saving that for the next drop, which is a little frustrating. I would have liked to see some things, some lines start to wrap up or start reaching a conclusion, but whatever, there's still plenty of episodes to go. I also think they do a good job of showcasing just how menacing and powerful Vecna is. In the final fight of episode 4, they have him walking out fucking aura farming. He's in his like turbo evil Groot form, so he's got like fucking tentacles all over him. He looks like a rotting tree ant, and he starts using his abilities to just massacre all of the remaining soldiers from the Demogorgon ambush. And they show how strong he is. And then he has like a speech to Will, and then, unfortunately, and this is another thing, the writing in this first volume feels so different from the good writing of older Stranger Things episodes. So after slaughtering 15 soldiers, gruesomely massacring them, Joyce is standing between Vecna and Will, and he just, flips her to the side. And then he, force chokes Will over to him and gives a little speech about, you were my first experiment. You broke so easily. Your mind is weak. You've got poop brain, Buster. You got smooth brain. I don't like you. You're stupid. You're stinky. And for that, I'm leaving. And he's gonna let the Demogorgons take care of them. But why though? Vecna, while he does enjoy reveling in the suffering of others, they've established that. They also, even in this very season, said he is not the kind of person to leave things unfinished, so why wouldn't he have just killed them himself? Like, why would he not have just immediately, fucking bopped Joyce, just slimed her out right then and there like he did all those soldiers? And I can see why he'd try and let a Demogorgon finish off Will, because that'd be like the ultimate torment. But still, it was just kind of, it felt lazy, more so than anything. And that's the way I feel about a lot of dialogue in this first half of season 5, where it just feels like these characters talk at each other instead of with each other. So like Elle and Hop, as they're going through the Upside Down, which by the way, the Upside Down is no longer like this scary place with like bats and like giant tentacles and everything. It seems very sterile now. Like, you can make an argument that maybe the military went through and cleared it all out, and they've also been so experienced with it that now it's just no longer a big threat, which I think takes a lot of wind out of the sails of the Upside Down, which was once like the worst place imaginable, basically hell. Here, it's fundamentally just like a blue light filter area with a little red lightning, and there's nothing else to it. Like, there's no like sense of dread or looming terror in the Upside Down. It's basically empty now. Like, the only people left are the fucking military and like the Demogorgon once or twice. Outside of that, it's just completely vacant. Like, that place Squidward went to be all alone. So, like, when Elle and Hop are traversing it, they're not even worried. Like, they're just casually strolling through the Upside Down. When Steve, Dustin, Jonathan, and Nancy get into the Upside Down, they're not worried either. They're treating it like a joke that they're now in the Upside Down, and they're just more annoyed that Steve crashed his car. So, like, the Upside Down is no longer, like, a scary thing. But what I was getting at with the dialogue, while Elle and Hop are going through the Upside Down, like, they bicker and then immediately make up, only to bicker again during, like, their making up, and then bicker again. Like, the line, punk ass, was used, like, 15 times in a single scene, where Hop is, like, injured, and she's being stubborn. He's like, oh, you're such a stubborn punk ass. And then she's like, oh, you mean, like, a stubborn punk ass? And he's like, oh, you heard stubborn punk ass? Yeah, well, I guess I'm a stubborn punk ass, too. It's like, okay, come on. You don't need to wear the word out so much. Like, They really hammer that word in there. And that's a lot of their dialogue. It just feels really stiff. But now I want to mention something else that I think is probably a hot take with something I liked from this volume 1. I really like that they brought Eleven's sister back. That's probably a really spicy take, because that episode is still the worst in the series by far. That was in like season 2, where they had this like random, completely out of left field episode where Eleven meets her sister who has powers like her, and they basically have like a fucking biker gang and they go out causing a ruckus. And that was an episode everyone hated. And it seemed as though they tried to pretend it never existed, because it never came back again. Eleven's sister was never even loosely referenced again, really. But in the final episode here of Volume 1, we see that the thing that was like clogging her ability to use her powers and hurting her and like weakening her was actually the military using her sister as that sonic weapon. I actually really like that idea, because you can't just say that episode in season 2 is not canon. It has to still exist as a part of the overall lore here. And I think this was a good way of doing it. You no longer have to like address anything else about that episode. You now have the most important part of that episode, that character, now in the megamix here in a way that I think does make sense. And now you have another very powerful piece on the chessboard for how they could fight against Vecna. It does make me a little concerned that the final fight between Vecna and the main crew is going to be like a fucking Conjuring movie finale where it's basically just like force pushes back and forth. I would really hate if it, and I hope I'm wrong, but I can see this happening. I would really hate if it ends with Vecna getting into like basically a Dragon Ball Z beam struggle with Eleven. And then he's like, "You can't defeat me alone." And then she's like, "I'm not alone." And that's when her sister comes in and adds to the beam. And then that's when Will comes in and adds to the beam. I'm using beam metaphorically because, of course, they're going to be fighting with the invisible force pushes. But then you have all three of the very powerful people all banding together to force push into Vecna, which obliterates him. I would hate that. I would really hate that. And I could maybe see it happening, because now you have three people that can all do this. You have Eleven, you have her sister, now you have Will. But there is a chance that's how they're going to kill Vecna, and that would really suck. That would be so fucking lame. But hopefully I'm wrong. For now, I do like how they brought Eleven's sister into the fold. I think it was well executed, and I'm very curious to see where it goes with that character now. Anyway, I've been yapping about this one for a while, but this is a season 9 years in the making here, and I don't think it was the greatest volume 1. I don't think it was bad. Like, I think there were definitely good moments, but instead of providing like answers, it is still giving you more questions and expanding upon previous questions, and it's really starting to feel like it's dragging, even though it also feels like it's rushing through certain things. It's just, I don't know, it's just in an odd spot. I'm really hopeful that the next volume, like, I do think this will still, like, it still has the potential for a good ending. So I'm still looking forward to how it wraps up. It's just, I didn't love this first batch of 4. It was fine. That's really about it. See ya.